Good afternoon. It is the afternoon, just about. It's about 12:15 now, and I've come out on a session I wasn't really expecting to do. I've been keeping an eye on the rivers of late because Storm Gerrit, I think it's been called, has come through. The Avon is in the fields once again. The other little river I can fish on the tickets I've got this year, the Avon, is in the fields. This one yesterday was over 2 metres on the gauge. 2.2, I think. However, I got it this morning and it's 1.5. It's dropped half a metre overnight, which I'm amazed at. It's still relatively high, thick and brown, as you can see, pale brown. But I've got an afternoon free, so I thought I'd come out, try and make the most of the overcast conditions. I say overcast conditions. Of course, the second I stepped foot out of my car, the sun's come out. It is supposed to chuck it down with the rain as well this afternoon, so we'll see. We'll see what happens, but we can fish into dark. It's going to be a day for finding the slacks, I think. Hopefully the sun will go in because it's going to cast my shadow right across the river as we walk up. We're going to have a bit of a row, but I'm not going to be too much of a rush to move about the swims today. We can take our time. I don't think there's going to be too many fishable swims in here, because, as I say, we're going to target the slacks. Now, I'm fairly new to this stretch. I fish on the other side, further down, much more regularly. But this bit of it, I've been fishing lately. I've fished it a couple of times. Never in this sort of condition. So I can only imagine from what I've seen with the river lower, what we're going to find up there. And I think we'll find a few slacks. But for now, I've come to the bottom of the stretch. It's a swim which I fished from the other bank and done okay in this sort of condition. So I thought I'd start here, and then we'll have a rove up. Although I'm just looking at the slack now, and it looked lovely, and it has just boiled up. So we'll have to see what happens. Right, gear-wise, of course, we're on the ledger today. I've got my Dower Power Mesh £1.25 test curve rod, GSBR LT 3000 reel. I'll stick all the information down below on the gear I'm using, line, etc. And I've got my standard running ledger rig on here, and I'll stick a link below and up there to show you how I tie this up. It's nice and adjustable for when you're roving about. You might want a long tail in one hook link and a short one in another. On this, you can just adjust it on the fly. It's very easy to do. Bait wise, mash bread, of course. Mash bread in a little feeder, and perhaps some loose bits going in. It's mashed up very, very stodgy, because obviously we want to get into the bottom because we're ledgering. Again, I'll link you in up there and down there to a video where I'll show you how I do that. And I've got some, obviously, bread for the hook. I've got some cheese paste and some worms as well, just in case we want to have a change, but I think bread is a good way to go. Right, that's enough waffle, isn't it? Should we crack on? Let's get down here and have a go in this little slack in the edge here. So, I've dug out some heavier feeders for this session. Because if we need to hold sort of on the far side of the river, we're going to need some decent weight. Normally I carry feeders up to 2 ounces, but today I've dug out a couple of 3s as well. But you can probably see down here we've got this lovely slack, which, as I say, I've had chub out of in the past. I've actually had a really nice roach out here as well. This has been fishing from the other bank in very similar sort of conditions. So I am hoping to catch one or either of those species. Not caught a big roach for a while, so that'd be nice. I had them over £1 here. Right, let's get comfy. As comfy as we can, sat on the floor. I've done my best not to make any sort of disturbance on the floor, or stomp around, or sort of break twigs or anything like that. There's certainly some depth in there today. It'd be nice to be fishing a bit lighter than this with a lighter quiver tip. But unfortunately, conditions dictate otherwise. Well, that's moved already. I don't know if that was fish or current. We just had a drop back. I have only got very, very light feeder on. So fishing right in close, so could have been just the current moving it a little bit. You need a little bit of a bend in your tip, obviously just in case you do get a drop back. I'm putting just as little as I can into it. I like that was a tap, definitely. As I say, I think I'll stick it out in these swims for a reasonable amount of time. I'm not really doing any pre-baiting. But what I may do is, if I'm getting some interest in the swim and I want to rest it up, we'll perhaps go for a wander and then revisit on the way back down. This sun's certainly not going to help things, certainly not on the roach front anyway, probably not on the chub front either. No, I don't think we're going to get a lot of bites today. If we catch 2 or 3 fish, I'll be very happy, I have to say. In these sort of conditions. It does make location a lot easier though. I mean, you'd never want to fish in that water. I'm sure you can see the water from about a third of the way out. We've got this very slow anti-clockwise eddy in here, a bit of slacker water. We've got the crease, and then it's absolutely boiling like crazy on that other side. The fish are not going to want to sit in that. It's far too much effort. Maybe some of the steadier runs, the water's not moving too quickly that the chub wouldn't mind sitting in them. What I found, as I mentioned at the beginning, this river's been up another ½ a metre. We've had a bit of a double bulge on the gauge, so it's been up very high, or relatively high, for a few days. What you do find in this river, I found on other stretches, is that the fish get into the slacks and they don't get back out of them very quickly. So it's often worth carrying on targeting the slacks, even after the water subsided somewhat. Right, look, we've been mugged. I said tonight that someone was chewing at that. But that mash is still in the feeder, which is sort of okay. Some of it's come out, it's nice and wet. But that's good, we've been mugged, that's good. Worth mentioning as well, this rain we've had, this Storm Gerrit. It's been warm rain, or relatively warm rain. It's certainly not chilled the river. If a load of sort of frozen meltwater and sort of colder rain had been, I think I'll be sat at home now. I don't think I'd have bothered. It won't stop chub and roach feeding, cold rain or cold water going in the river, but they need a few days just to acclimatise before they get the appetites back. Just at the moment with that sun I haven't been out, I was just dropping this bait in really close to this tree. You can probably see if I get out of the way. That's the tap. Well, there's certainly some fish in here. It does seem like the bite's off smaller fish at the moment. But if they're hungry, that's a good sign. I mean, it's middle of the day now. It's not the best time of the day to be fishing. Maybe that we spend the next couple of hours perhaps fishing a few swims and getting some bait in them, and then, as I say, perhaps we'll work back down the stretch. Might be an idea. Work back down the stretch and fish them once they've had a bit of bait in them and left them to settle. Right, I think that's long enough. I'd imagine this worm's chewed to bits. Yeah. Right. Let's get that, drop that back in and strike that bread out of the feeder. Go. We've deposited that down the bottom. So I'm just going to clear a few of these stingers out, and then we'll, all these old stingers, I think they're old stingers, we'll get moved. A couple of things whilst they occur to me. If you're doing roving like this, one thing I've learned is take your feeder off I used to leave mine on, and I found that one of my quiver tips, not on this rod but on a different rod, the carbon started splitting because I was carrying it along with a reasonable weight on it with the tip sort of pulled round. And also, I don't like these keeper rings. You get a keeper ring here to put your hook in, which is great, but I do find when I'm carrying my rod, hook keeps going in my finger, so I use the leg of the first eye. Just a couple of little things you might find useful. Right, I'm going to knock. I'd like to get my rod further down, so I'm just going to knock some of these down. We'll make the disturbance now, and then we'll leave this to rest for a couple of 3 hours. Right, there we go. So that's clearly disturbed the shrimp a lot, but when we come back we'll be able to get our rod much lower, get a much better line angle. So here we are, very much last chance saloon. And once again, this is boiling up a lot more than it was earlier. I'm sure we're on the rise here. Once again. But you know, it has been raining, so it wouldn't surprise me at all. Right, we've got a nice light feeder for in here. Nice bit of bread on the hook. Hopefully a nice roach in the net. That'll be a lovely way to end. Lovely way to end a very unproductive session. But it only takes one bite, as I say. Right. Yeah, it's definitely a lot more boiling. We have still got some relatively nice water to fish in though. We cleared those reeds away earlier, so we've got a nice line lay as well. We're starting to lose the light. The sun has gone down below the bank to our left. There's a bit of a bank and a village. So the light levels are going to drop now, so we'll give this 20 minutes. I think if we haven't had a bite in 20 minutes, we're not going to get one. That was a proper pull, wasn't it? I nearly struck that, but it was so slow and steady that I thought perhaps it was a bit of debris or something. Annoyed I didn't strike that. Aye. Getting some plucks now. Slow, deliberate pulls. There we go. Oh, finally we've had a fish. Well, I'm sure this is a chub. God blimey, that's a nice one. Certainly does. Wow. Certainly try and get us in the edge like a chub. Cool, that is a proper chub. Well, we have fished the length and back of this stretch. This took till last knockings to get a bite, but it was worth waiting for. That's a cracker. Well, he's made us wait. Last knockings, but yeah, what a cracking fish from a tiny little stretch of river like this. I think we'll give it another 10 minutes, see if we can catch his mate, perhaps. Who knows? Definitely worth a go, but that's a cracking fish. Well, I really didn't think the chub were on it today. And that was a very funny little bite. But yeah, I'll settle for that all day long. Could well be the biggest chub I've ever had out of this particular stretch. He looks a nice fish. Worth another go though, I reckon. I've just got him in the net down here, so he doesn't wreck the swim for us. The only other alternative really is to release them in a different place, but it feels really mean doing that. They're like letting fish go not where I've caught them. I always feel, you know, he clearly lives here, perhaps under that tree. So we want to put him back where he came from. That's great, absolutely wonderful. Right, let's see if we can winkle another one out, perhaps. Who knows? Got worth 10 minutes to find out. So we've got him down here in the net. We have really disturbed the swim, so I'd be amazed if we can winkle another one out, but you never know. So I've suddenly decided to wake up and get out for a feed. Right, I'm going to call it a day at that. Nothing else forthcoming in there. And about another 10 minutes at it, so you can see how slack it was. The mash is still in the feeder. It is swirling a bit on top, but must be fairly steady down the bottom. But yeah, we'll call it a day there. As you can see, it's getting dark anyway. It's a lot darker here than it looks on there. I have to say. I do say that quite often, but it's very much the case. I can barely see this tip, and as you can see, it's white. I'm starting to struggle to see it. That's how dark it is. Well, I thought it was worth another look at properly under the lights. That's cracking. Just put him on the scales, just under 3.5 pounds. That's a cracking fish from this river. I've had one just slightly bigger than this, just 3.10 at this river, so he's not far off a venue PB. That's cracking. He clearly wants to go back. Let's get him back. Right. Let's say we'll get him back in there. I'll come and catch him when he is a PB. So that has been really, really hard going today. It's been very, very tough, but we got there in the end. We had a nice fish just at last knock-ins, but well, as you've seen, I've fished this whole stretch up and back, and that's the only proper bite I've had. And even then, it was only a little rustly, tappy bite, but I really did think it was a big roach. But as soon as I struck into it, I knew it wasn't a big roach. But that's cracking. As I say, nearly a venue PB, so I can't moan at that. Now, I am hoping the Avon is going to get into some sort of fishable condition quite soon. We've been doing this small river, the Warwickshire Stour, for quite a few sessions now. We've just not been able to get on the Avon at all. Hopefully, perhaps we can get on the Olne as well. Who knows? But for now, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. Tight lines, enjoy your own angling when you get out there. Many thanks to the channel patrons for your wonderful support. And I'll see you again very soon.